Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Taxes Tuesday with myself, Nafisa Manira. I am bringing you the tax news, the tax happenings, the tax strategies. I'm bringing you that today. That's what Let's Talk Taxes Tuesday is about. And I am a tax attorney and CPA. I help rescue individuals and businesses with tax debt. And I help train the next generation of tax attorneys who want to specialize in this area. But today, I'm bringing you the tax news because tax world has been booming, right? There's been so much activity that's been going on since President Trump has taken office, and he's on a mission to revamp the budget, to revamp the whole federal workforce, and Elon Musk is right by his side with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. So it's just so much happening every few days. It seems like it's something new that's coming out. Well, the latest is the cut to the IRS. The IRS last week, I think last Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, laid off 6,700 of their workers, right? Now, keep in mind, the IRS workforce is over 100,000 people, right? So the IRS has over 100,000 employees. So this was 6,700 of their workforce, right? Which give or take is about 6-7%, right? 6-7% of their workforce they laid off. Now, keep in mind that this is not just the IRS, right? This is happening within a larger picture of President Trump's mission to reduce the workforce and get a hold of the budget and get a hold of the expenses. So, if you all remember, this mandate, their strategy thus far has been when he first came into office, the strategy was okay, in order to reduce the workforce, we're going to offer everyone basically a buyout, right? Like a buyout, or kind of like a buyout or retirement package, if you want to call it that, where they were offering all the employees, hey, you can leave the job, we'll pay you through September 30th, right? Because that's what the budget, the current fiscal budget for the American public, for the US, is through September 30th. So we'll pay you through September 30th, but you have to take this deal by February 6th. And it had a whole bunch of stipulations or whatever, right? So that was the first deadline. Then people started doing different lawsuits or whatever, and then it was halted, and the whole thing was halted. And actually, there's still probably currently some court cases that's going on, but they halted it, and then they gave a new deadline, and that new deadline has since come and gone, right? So that was the first strategy. Let's just offer up, see how much of the workforce we can reduce by offering people these buyouts, right? Next thing is they basically gave everybody, all agencies, not just the IRS, they basically gave all agency a mandate to reduce their budget and reduce their workforce within the next 30 days. Right. So that was the mandate that went across the board. And they specifically really telling people like, hey, you need to let go of your probationary workers. That was the mandate that came down to the IRS as well as all other agencies. And so that's what this recent action, that's what this recent action is in response to, right? So that's what's going on, and it's going to be interesting as it goes across there. And then at the end of the day, you say, Nafisa, why do I care? I'm really just want to know, am I still gonna get my refund? Is my tax return still gonna be processed in a timely manner where if I'm getting a refund, I'm able to get my refund? Hey, your refund is you still going to get your refund. It's still going to be processed in a timely manner. Those 6,700 employees, they weren't in any particular department within the IRS. They were really spread off across the IRS. They say compliance, but that's anybody that may be answering the phones, anybody that administratively may be working in the background, that type of thing. So it's really kind of across the board. Where I see this really impacting the IRS is in terms of customer service, because um I think our customer service, the wait times when you call the IRS might begin to get longer and longer because they have less people to be able to handle that kind of thing. And that's usually the first thing that goes is customer service, right? So we have to keep that in mind. And understand too that if you all remember 2 years ago, or really 3 years ago now, in 2022, the IRS was given $80 billion. $80 billion over the next 10 years. This was in 2022 with the Inflation Reduction Act to increase their technology, increase their workforce. Really? Because they have been understaffed for years, and customer service had been suffering for years, where people were waiting on the phone a half an hour or more just to be able to speak to somebody. So they were given this $80 billion spread out over 10 years to be able to ramp up their workforce. And they did that. I mean, basically, they were on a hiring frenzy over the last couple years, hiring so many people, and their customer service had improved. Even though us as practitioners, right? We have a different line, we have a different communication channels that we have through the IRS, but than the general public. But our their answering times for us were like clockwork. I mean, I very rarely had to wait any more than a few, 5 minutes or whatever, um, to be able to talk to somebody at the IRS through uh, our practitioner line, right? So, and wait times has been significantly reduced because all the people that they've hired over the last 2.5 years. And so some of those people who were on probation, who maybe had just been hired in the last year, unfortunately, those are the ones that's getting laid off. So, and then that $80 billion was reduced to 60 billion. So 60 billion, they're still supposed to get 60 billion over the next 10 years. It's probably the next 8 years or 7.5 years. So it's going to be interesting to see how if that's going to be cut even more during this whole slash of expenses and slash of budgets. That part is going to be very interesting. Now, another thing that we want to talk about too, or keep in mind, is when we talk about the IRS has over 100,000 employees, and then this 6 or 7% were laid off. Who does that affect, right? The IRS workforce is over almost 65% women. And you know that a lot of women are heads of their households. So it's going to significantly affect disproportionately a lot of women because a lot of the IRS employees are women and minorities as well, right? Because over 50, almost 56% of the IRS workforce are racial minorities. African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and other minorities. So those communities, our communities, are going to be the one that's really affected by this, and us as women, as mothers, as head of households, we're the ones that's going to be significantly affected by this. But it's also an opportunity for us to say, you know what, we need to do more for ourselves. We need to have multiple streams of income coming in so that we don't put our family in a predicament again to only have one source of income. So it's also an opportunity for us to take inventory of that and reposition ourselves and let us pivot so that we can start having multiple streams of income and we can start doing more for ourselves. All right. So that's just something I want to lay out there. And the last thing that I want to talk about is for us to always keep in mind of what's really going on. Because a lot of this really doesn't make sense. If your agenda, your mission, I'm talking about President Trump and the government, is to tidy up the budget, to slash certain expenses, to get us back in balance, which before I told y'all last week, we're right now already $140 billion over budget. If that's your agenda to get the budget back in balance and to slash certain expenses, why would you cut off the department that collects your money? The IRS is the one that collects the money. Why would you cut off That doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, you're cutting off the flow that's bringing in money into the bucket. That doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint, from an accounting standpoint, from a budgetary standpoint. That doesn't make sense. So it's going to be interesting. And keep in mind too, it's a lot of rumors that always that goes around every few years talking about, oh, they're going President Trump is going to get rid of the income tax. And you got a lot of people like, yeah, he's going to get rid of the income tax. He's not going to get rid of the income tax. How can you cut off your major source of income? And you can't compensate it for it enough with the whole tariff situation. The majority of the US budget is they get from taxes. So there's not going there might be a revamping of different tax laws and that kind of stuff, but they're not going to get rid of the income tax. So don't believe the hype, okay? And this whole idea about giving out a tax stimulus because they're talking about they're saving so much money with so if that happens, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be more to pacify the people, but it's not going to be in alignment with what they say their mission is, which is to reduce um, the budget and to balance the budget and to make the government more efficient. The numbers don't match. So we're gonna have to see how what else happens. And I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more that comes up, particularly since Elon Musk and Doge has audited the IRS and they're going in to audit the IRS. So that's gonna be interesting to see how this all plays out. But that's just what I wanted to bring you for your tax news. And hey, don't worry about it. Your tax refund, you're still gonna get your tax refund. Okay. Now, if you got some issues with your tax return where you need to call the IRS or send in certain documentation and all that kind of stuff, then your tax refund may be delayed. But if you file your tax return how it's supposed to be filed, your things should be processed just as quickly as they were last year. And if you're one of the ones that's getting a refund, you should get your refund same in a timely manner. Because again, most of this is by technology anyway. So I just wanted to bring that to you today on this Let's Talk Taxes Tuesday with myself, Nafisa Munir, and you go and have a great rest of your day. And contact me if you got tax debt, if you're an attorney or a CPA and you're interested in this specialty of tax representation, of helping people with their tax debt to reduce it and all that, give me a call, look me up, right? Let's see how we can help you. In the meantime, make sure y'all subscribe to my channel, like, right? Whatever, subscribe so I can bring you even more tax news. Have a great week. Bye.